Hi, my name is Thang Nguyen, and today I will be presenting American Gothic by Grant Wood. Some background info. The painting was painted by Grant Wood in 1930 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The size of the painting is 78 by 65.3 centimeters, and it is currently displayed at the Art Institute of Chicago. As you can see, the figures take up a majority of the painting, which I'll get into later. The medium. The painting uses oil paints on beaverboard, which is a type of fiberboard where you can press multiple sheets of wood together. And the beaverboard helps to create a smooth, rigid surface, allowing for high detail with the oil paints. Grant Wood uses a muted Pioneer palette rather than bright colors. Earth tones such as Prussian blue, pitch black, bone white, and moss green reflect the modest Protestant culture of the 1930s Midwest and the dull reality of rural American life. Style. American Gothic reflects the movement of regionalism, which developed in the United States during the Great Depression. Due to the Great Depression, many artists turned away from big cities and focused on rural American life. The movement reacted against modern art, which some artists believed had become too abstract. Instead, artists like Grant Wood returned to clear, realistic imagery rooted in American culture. Regionalists highlighted everyday rural experiences such as farms and rolling landscapes, small town buildings and architecture, and local traditions such as farming and church life. These themes helped emphasize the values of hard work, tradition, and community in rural America. The economical crisis of the Great Depression made artists want to define what it meant to be American. Regionalist paintings were therefore realistic and straightforward, easy for people to understand, and focus on familiar subjects. This approach helped create art that people could relate to during a difficult time in the country's history. Although the painting is American, its technique reflects ideas from the Northern Renaissance. The Northern Renaissance artists emphasized detailed textures and realistic light effects. These light effects create small glints and shadows, making objects appear three-dimensional. And not only did they paint these light effects, they also painted everyday life. This differs from the Italian Renaissance, where artists like Leonardo da Vinci focused heavily on ideal human proportions and anatomy. In American Gothic, these Northern Renaissance ideas appear in the detailed lightings, textures, and realistic depiction of ordinary life such as farming and church going. In this painting, that influence appears in the wrinkles on the farmer's face, showing his age, and also the sharp detailed trees in the background, which they could have just filled in. These details contribute to the painting's precise and realistic appearance. Form. Rather than using traditional shading methods like linear shading or cross-hatching, Wood uses glazing with oil paints. He uses thin, transparent layers of paint that are applied gradually, which creates smooth gradients and controlled shadows. This effect is especially visible on the farmer, the daughter, and the background, giving the painting a polished and realistic look. The painting relies heavily on strong vertical and geometric lines to structure the composition, seen in the pitchfork, the farmer's overalls, and the window of the White House, but they are also seen in many others. These repeated shapes, along with the structured lines of the figure's face, create a feeling of rigidness, seriousness, and stability in the painting. Composition and space. The painting feels compressed and slightly claustrophobic, as mentioned in previous slides. The two figures, the farmer and the daughter, occupy almost two-thirds of the canvas, blocking much of the landscape behind them. Because of this, the viewer cannot fully see the American background, making the space feel tighter and more enclosed. Perspective. Most realistic paintings use atmospheric perspective, where distant objects appear softer or slightly blurred to imitate air or fog. In American Gothic, distance is instead shown through mathematical perspective. Figures in the foreground. Figures in the foreground, the house behind them, the barn, trees, and sky further back. This layering of the foreground, midground, and background make the scene feel rigid, permanent, and almost frozen in time because there are no blurs to imitate air. Content. Let's talk about the foreground. The first person I want to talk about is the artist's sister, portraying the farmer's daughter, Nan Wood Graham. In her 30s, she wore a colonial print apron and her mother's jewelry cameo brooch to help transform her into a traditional daughter figure. She modeled with slick-backed hair and a stern expression suggesting hard work and discipline. The second person I want to talk about is Dr. Byron McKeeby, or Wood's dentist, portrayed as a farmer. He was 62 years old. In the painting, he wears a clean white shirt with a detachable collar, layered with a dark jacket and denim overalls, which symbolizes Midwestern values of balancing hard work and religious morality. The figure's expressions reflect the survivor spirit of American pioneers. The farmer stares directly at the viewer, appearing steady and guarded. The daughter, however, looks slightly to the side, suggesting caution and awareness of her surroundings. The pitchfork, held by the farmer, has 3 vertical tines, which repeats the painting's strong line verticality. This represents the farmer's determination during the Great Depression, clutching on to his land. The 3 prongs may also symbolize the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or oppositely, resemble the devil's pitchfork, creating a possible religious dual meaning. Let's move on to the midground. Behind the 2 figures stands a white farmhouse in Carpenter Gothic style, as seen as a photo to the left. This American style adapts European Gothic architecture, using wood instead of stone. It features steep roofs, pointed arches, and vertical siding. Because the house resembles Gothic churches, it subtly reflects the importance of religion in American life. Some details that pique my interest are the second floor window curtain being closed and the lower windows not revealing anything about the interior. The figures also partially block the porch, which is supposed to create a horizontal line that balances the painting's vertical structure. The reason why the details pique my interest is because it suggests American life privacy, where everyone is always putting on a facade and actually have a very private life. The background. Now, there are 3 main components on the background. There are the lollipop trees, which are painted as neat, rounded shapes rather than wild growth, and they represent the regionalist idea of ordered nature, which is, and also shows land shaped by hardworking people. The red barn, small but brightly colored behind the house, acknowledges the economic center of farm life without distracting from the figures. The spiral-like tree, you may have not noticed, but there is a spiral-like tree, rises behind the house, which echoes church spires, reinforcing religious undertones and also the painting's vertical line harmony. Technique. Using oil paints, Wood uses layering and glazing to build depth and glowing realism. Wood uses brushwork similar to John van Eyck and other Flemish painters to create crisp edges and packed composition to keep the viewer's attention. POV. Grant Wood, raised in rural Iowa, went off to Europe to study at the Academy Julian. And after a while, he rejected abstract styles such as those of Pablo Picasso, and rather focused on ordinary Midwestern art. He valued hard work, order, resilience, and especially resilience during the hardships of the Great Depression. Shaping an idea. Grant Wood was a major part of the regionalist movement in America. The American Gothic painting showed realistic scenes of local American life and showed that it can compete with European modern abstract art. During the Great Depression, the painting came to symbolize the resilience and strength of rural America. Lasting legacy. Now, as you may have seen on the other slide, Nan Woodgram and his Woods dentists were reluctant to model for the American Gothic. After seeing how stern she was drawn on American Gothic, she started to keep a scrapbook of humorous parodies of the American Gothic. The image continues to appear in shows such as The Simpsons and The Muppets, showing its lasting cultural relevance. One interesting story about Grant Wood was even though he was married to Sarah Sherman Maxon, he was a closeted homosexual, and he didn't dare to come out of the closet because he would have been criminalized. When he was on his deathbed, he told his sister to locate his lover in Palm Springs before he died of pancreatic cancer in 1942. He never met his lover. Here are my works cited, and thank you for listening to my presentation.